So traveling is a very natural kind of thing now, and the people are going to go out and travel, and that's what we have to do. We have to try to get some of them to come to Hawaii.
You know, one of the criticisms that I've heard since I've been here is the visitor experience when they come to the Honolulu airport, and primarily international visitors. Do you think that's a legitimate criticism, and should we do
Absolutely.
something about it?
Well, we can't do anything about it because it's federal, yeah. And I think during the time that we were there, we had an opportunity. We try to get the federal government to be careful about how they deal with our people, the immigration, and the lines have gotten shorter, immigration line. But at one time, the immigration line was really, really, people told me they used to work hour and a half, 2 hours just to get through that line, you know. And after being on a plane for 8, 9 hours,
Right.
to have to do that was quite a terrible experience. But
Yes.
it's gotten better. I think customs has gotten better also.
Yes.
And I think there's a friendliness that exists. So I think the criticism was really valid many years
Yes,
ago.
yes, it's
Maybe
better.
it's still valid to some extent, not as bad as it used to be. Things have gotten better.
Well, personally, I don't like the Wiki shuttle. I have traveled from
I
Tokyo
know.
to Honolulu. I have had a 7-hour or 8-hour flight. Then I get out of the airport, and then they say, go up the escalator, stand in line, and then we all push into this little tiny
That's right.
bus, and then they drive us, you know, and then we go down an escalator and get in line. But it's that herding me
Yep.
into a bus
That's
to get
right.
to another part
Yeah.
of the, you know, which is different than when you travel other airports. It might be a monorail system, you know, a train that just moves every, you know, it's predictable
Walking
every 2
sidewalk.
minutes, right? Where with this Wiki shuttle, they just push everybody, and once they get a maximum amount of number, they shut the door and off they go,
Yeah.
and then you're standing, and
That's right.
you know, and there's not you're all squished together, kind of moving around. I mean, it's just a different kind of experience, and,
Well,
and I don't,
think about when you need to get through with all of that experience,
Yeah.
and you come out of the airport,
yeah.
and then what happens to you?
Oh, the air.
You know,
You just
gotta,
go, oh, the air. I love the air,
Yeah.
and you look up
But
at
how
the.
do you get from there to where you want to get?
Oh well, yes, that's true too.
And the taxi situation at our airport is terrible.
Yes, that's true. That experience of where you go and how you get
Yeah.
there, and the ground
right.
transportation, that's a little, you know.
Every other place that I've been to, you come
Yeah.
out and the taxi's waiting.
Yeah,
You get, and you wait in line. There are many people want to get in taxi, but you can see the taxi's there, and you're going to get in line, get in a taxi eventually. But here, I come out, and I get in a taxi place, and there was no taxi. And then you got to wait so long for the taxi to come. And it's after that long experience going through everything, we should not have that kind of system where we got to wait too long for the taxi to come.
right. That's right. Yeah, no, I hear you, because at least at our airport, they walkie-talkie, right, and say come, and so they're sitting somewhere else. Where you go to other places, and they've got all of their taxis lined up in a row, and it's just real quick, bang, 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 you know, all these different spots. So
And it's all right.
managing.
It's all right if they come quickly,
Yeah, yeah.
but sometimes they don't come very quickly.
That's very true. That's interesting. You may not know this, but we just came out of session today, and we voted for an increase in transient accommodations tax. And it was a very, very difficult time for us this session, because the Council of Revenues told us that the prediction has dropped off since we began in January, and we're anticipating when the Council of Revenues comes back on May 27th, they're even going to go farther down. So worst case scenario, they say it's negative 5% right now for this year. Let's say May 27th, they're at a negative 6 or 6.5. The governor's going to have to figure out how to manage that, because she has her fiscal year coming up June 30th. But in the meantime, so we're at the legislature talking about all the programs and services and whatever. So today we had some interesting votes on some tax measures, and that was one of them. And there was a couple interesting, there was floor discussion on this, obviously, but one of the things I found interesting was, the Council of Revenues came back on May 27th, they're even going to go farther down. So the creation of the transient accommodation tax and why it was created and what the original purpose of it was, and the worry that we're moving away from that purpose. Now, were you around when the transient accommodation tax was created?
Yes, I was.
Okay. What caused that, and what was the purpose of that tax?
Well, the industry wanted to have the tax because HVB was voluntary, and some
And HVB stands for Hawaii Visitors
right,
Bureau. Okay.
and some people supported, some businesses, some companies, some hotels supported HVB stronger than other people. It was not an equal situation. So the industry itself decided they wanted to have a transit accommodation tax so that everybody would pay the same amount and get treated the same kind of way. The problem was, and I didn't want to have that happen, I wanted us not to have that kind of tax, but it came in for 2%. And then the legislature, instead of taking 2%, pegged it 5%. Now the same people who wanted the 2% tax came to me and told me veto that because they don't want it. They didn't want that. And my response was, I did not push for this tax, you did. And I'm not going to veto something that you were involved in supporting and pushing for. So
It's one of those, be careful what you ask for,
Yeah,
because you
that's
may
right.
get it, but not quite
That's
the
right.
way you
Yeah.
wanted it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of those things, right?
Yeah.
So, but did the transient accommodation tax create the Hawaii Tourism Authority? I mean, was that
Yes,
like happened at the
that's right.
same time? So
That's
we
right.
created this tourism authority at the same time?
Right, yeah.
Okay,
It was tourism authority that was created because you had this now vast amount of dollars.
that's right.
And somebody had to go look at what you're going to do with it, how you're going to allocate those funds. And
Yes,
some of that funds were allocated to the Hawaii Visitors Bureau
right.
and others to different kind of projects. And at the time that it was started, there was no money allocated to the counties, but the counties began to lobby and began to reach out, felt this easy money to them. They want portions of it.
Well, you know, this is the big controversy this year. You know, there was a bill that I think it's in conference. It may never get a hearing, I don't know, but it's saying that we want to take away the TAT tax, the percentage that we collect, and we divvy it up by county, that we want to do away with that. And then give authority to the counties to just charge a GET tax.
Which
So,
is to me very terrible. You know, one of the good things about Hawaii and our tax system, you have to look at a resident, a person here in Hawaii, and what's the tax burden. And right now, we look at income tax, we look at excise tax, and all the tax that a person has to pay.
yeah,
And we do it all at state level, except for the property tax, which is on the county level. But we look at this and we look at the burdens on the individual. And the fairness of that burden, to me, becomes very important. And that's what we do under the current system. But if you give taxing authority to the counties over and above the property taxes, now this whole system of fairness and taxation, the burden of on the taxpayer going to get thrown all out of whack. And where
oh, I see.
people are going to start looking, if
Sure.
you go an excise tax,
Sure.
now, excise tax is more regressive. And you're going to have more regression now than you had before.
I'm beginning to understand what you're saying there, because one of the things I always have to remember is that we don't have cities, we don't have townships, basically we have the one government for the county. And what happens is, and a lot of people forget, is state government provides a whole lot more services at the state level than most people are used to when they come from a different model on the mainland. Yeah, 'cause-
Education, everywhere else, education is supported by property taxes.
yes,
And that's at the county level.
yes,
And because of that, some places get wealthy community,
yes,
the tax is heavier than poor community.
yes,
And so there's a great disparity in
Yes.
the kind of support that you get for education
yes,
if you look at property taxes.
yes.
But we are the only state in the country that does not support education with property taxes supported by state general funds.
I think it's important that we keep reminding people
Yeah.
as to what the difference really
Uh-huh.
is.
Mhm.
Well, we're almost about ready to run out of time, and it went really fast, I thought. So, you know, so now what? What do you think is going to happen with the tourist industry over the next couple of years, and what can we do to make sure it stays healthy and vibrant?
Well, I think it's, if I were in the hotel business, I would say don't interfere. We're going to weather the storm. It's going to be a difficult period. Help us market the tourism, and you collect the transient tax, and therefore use that tax to market tourism. But beyond that, leave us alone so that we can go ahead and do what we have to do in order to get our hotel rooms filled. But I would also say to the industry that they must also become very concerned about how much the tourism industry grows. What's our carrying capacity? At what point will people say they no longer want to come to Hawaii? That's the responsibility they have as well as the government's responsibility. And you know, because tourism is so important, I feel very strongly about tourism. And I feel that this is something that's going to be good for generations to come. We must not destroy the opportunity for the generation to follow us to get the benefit of the tourism industry and the resources, the monies that they bring in.
Yes, and the other thing is we need to make sure that aloha spirit, which to me equates to when someone comes to visit, they become part of our ohana. You know, they're like, you're just part of the family. Everybody smiles, says hi. You know, kind of. You know, are you lost? Do you need directions? And you know, that kind of aloha spirit.
That's
too
right.
is.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
to somehow maintain,
Yeah.
which is danger. You know, we always have the danger with population growth and different changes. You know, how do we, you know, and that's the capacity part, right? How do we keep that?
Well, there are two parts of our tourism industry. One is the place that we have, the weather, everything else, and the other is the aloha spirit, people's feeling. I tell, you know, people go, oh, Singapore, some other place is going to steal our visitors that would come to Hawaii. But I never worry about that, so long as we don't use our aloha spirit.
That's right, and there's no
Because that's
place
two
like
parts
Hawaii.
to it.
Yes,
The place and the people.
the place and
And
the people.
Other places don't have the people.
Okay, well, that's a great note to close on, and thank you for watching us, and thank you, Governor, for sharing your thoughts.
It's my pleasure to be here.
It's just
Thank
my
you.
pleasure. Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.